Okay, so I was very worried about doing this car. This is the Mercedes-AMG A45 S. 3 reasons. 1, it's expensive. 2, there is something called an Audi RS3. And 3, well, everybody knows everything about this car, so what could I possibly say? And then I drove it. You see, what AMG are really good at doing with all of their cars is creating something called fear. I believe there's a whole meeting and an office where they all sit down and go, right, for this money we have to absolutely terrify people. The fact that AMG have managed to get 3.9 second 0 to 60, 500 Newton meters of torque, 400 horsepower from a 2-litre engine is astonishing. 4 cylinders. Give you an example, the original C36 AMG had a 3.6 litre engine and it had 276 horsepower. This is 45% quicker and about half the weight. Someone should get in touch with Tesla and say, mate, you want ludicrous mode? Have a go in one of these. Don't expect people to be queuing up for a lift though, because some of your passengers might hate you. Well, actually, they will want a lift because they'll want you to do the launch control and all that stuff. But your girlfriend won't, because she'll like to have her latte. Can't have your latte in this because of the suspension, right? This is a proper machine with stiff suspension. There are 3 modes in this. Hard, very hard, and actually call me an Uber. That said, if I switch this button over to C for comfort, I could drive this car every day. And if I slow down to 30 miles an hour, I'm hearing little road noise, no wind noise, and all I'm feeling is this Alcantara steering wheel. And this seat is wonderful. You would think that the suspension is ridiculous, and I'll give you an example. The Focus ST Track Pack is not the sort of car I would want to go any distance in, and maybe the Audi, whereas this sort of is. Here's your cabin, which is arguably an awful lot better than the RS3, just in terms of the materials themselves. They are really quite spongy. I expected it to be a bit more like a Focus Track Pack. Very hard, very raw. You could even go as far as to say it's marginally luxury in here. For instance, these seats with the bits of yellow on and the bits of aluminium here are really comfortable, and they look very uncomfortable. Then you have the MBUX system. Is it worth 10 grand more? Well, that's up to you. That's up to whether you value your MBUX system or not. There's an interesting few menus here as well. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the MBUX because everybody knows all about how brilliant it is. One thing you do is think that this is your trackpad for some reason. It's unusual to actually have to reach over and touch things, but I guess this is about driving and so on. But here are your main 2 additional things. First of all, you've got a different startup animation, and then you've got AMG performance and track pace, and for that I need to switch the engine on. And this is where you know you're in something quite special, and that is these 2 buttons here. This one can configure what mode you want to be in: Sport Plus, Race, or Pro, and Advanced, and Master. Today it's quite wet. I am certainly not a master, but there is a snow mode. Perhaps we should just drive in that. Hello, I'm very old. And then on this side, you've got this button, which changes the parameters within each setting. So you can change the suspension, the steering, and so on, and the exhaust note. Shall we have a little listen to the different exhaust notes? On the net, of course, and I do agree with you about fake exhaust, so just a quick second on that. Well, actually, when you look in, you can actually see the exhaust, which is better than it just being completely blanked off. There is one of the exhaust tips there. Yes, it's saying two, but there is one. But I'm becoming a little bit more stoic about this whole argument, because it's either going to be a fake exhaust or an exhaust tip that's there for aesthetic reasons, or an electric version of one of these. And which would you rather have? Of course, talking about the Ford ST, it's arguably not really in the same category. I mean, you know, it is one or two steps down, and it is expensive, but compared to this, you could say it's a relative bargain. Then there's the RS3, which, let's be honest, it sort of owns this space, doesn't it? It's very, very hard to beat. But believe it or not, there are some people in the world that have been born not liking Audis. You also have to take into consideration that this is two cars. One is a day car like this, and then there's the night car where everything lights up. Everything lights up, even behind these vents. There's two lots of lights over there, and then you've got the MBUX and a head-up display. There is so much to entertain you here. There's something you can't quite put your finger on why having a car that's also a disco at night is good. It just is. You might think, oh, it's a bit tacky after a while. It isn't. You just put a different colour on.
You are now in the presence of
One thing that's very clear, by the way, the clutch and the gearbox changes its parameters by when you turn that button, it will speed up the changes. This is a passion project. This is not something that's sensible. It's never meant to be. And for someone where money is not quite the object, whereas theatre and adrenaline is, it doesn't get more ferocious than this.
You are now in the presence of a king.